Alright guys, welcome back to another one. So it's that time again for another Square Enix update. Recently, the most up-to-date progress report on Square Enix's midterm business plan dropped along with their financial results. I think we'll just jump straight into it. Straight off the bat, Square Enix are actually up 28% with their operating income over the past 6 months. So, hey, that's a good thing, even though net sales are kind of down as there haven't really been a lot of major titles being released by the company. Still nice to know that Square Enix are on the up in terms of pure income for the company. Obviously, the past few financial result reports have not really been that great. There's been a lot of grim news over the past sort of 2 years in regards to Square Enix. Not like they're on dire straits, but things have obviously been a little bit rocky, though that is to be expected considering that Square Enix did launch the brand new business strategy of theirs, Reboot and Awakens, which is this 3-year phase that the company is currently in the midst of, which is planned to end in the fiscal year of 2028. So that means that leading up to the fiscal year of 2028 over in Japan, which will start March 2028, things are going to be a little bit quiet for the company, though it doesn't mean it's just going to be like tumbleweeds and there's nothing happening. There are still going to be titles releasing, it just won't be as crazy and hectic with major big AAA releases up until that point. The big change that is going on here with Square Enix is they're wanting to change from quantity to that of quality. If I'm being dead ass honest, and I've mentioned this quite a few times here on the channel, yeah, over the past like 8 or so years for Square, it has been a lot of garbage, like a lot of consistent garbage and a lot of flops for the company. Babylon's Fall, Balan Wonderworld, Avengers, Forspoken, the list goes on. There's so much stuff left alive. The Quiet Man, my god, some of the worst titles for the company's history in relation to like review scores have released over the past 8 years. And 2 of the most monumental fails and biggest losses for the company, looking at Avengers and Forspoken, have occurred within the past like 5 or so years. So obviously something needed to change, and this has happened with the changeover in presidency. Square Enix believe that once they enter into the fiscal year of 2028, they will hit consistent release of large-scale titles. So although they are wanting to focus on quality, there is going to be this active pipeline of big releases around those years, looking at obviously the next generation of gaming consoles. That being said, things won't be dead. We've got a slightly different looking business plan layout here for the next few years compared to the one that we went over in May. In the fiscal year of 2027, they are planning the launch of several large-scale titles, as well as the release of multiple new titles and multi-platform titles. So this is going to be a mix of both AAA as well as SD, AA, smaller budget games. But you'll notice that looking at the fiscal year of 2026, so next year, these boxes are now filled compared to May's version as new games have been announced since May of this year. Square Enix now have a small slate for next year's releases. These are Octopath Traveler's Era, which actually releases at the end of this year, though sales will stretch into that fiscal year. We've also got Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, which is releasing in February. Final Fantasy VII is finally coming to Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox. There will also be Killer Inn's a thing. And Adventures of Elliot is set to release next year, though there is no current release date. You'll now notice though that the mention of plans to release multiple new titles and multi-platform titles, that box that was on the May version has now disappeared with this most recent version, as the boxes have been filled with announced games. And that lots of the new stuff isn't happening until around about the 2027 area. This isn't to say that what we currently have a part of the 2026 pipeline is all that we're getting from Square Enix next year. Because I know so many of us are holding out that Kingdom Hearts 4 will be an end of the year 2026 release. Over the past couple of months though, I have been loosening my grip on that hope, if I'm being honest. And I really am starting to believe that it is a 2027 title. Especially like looking at this updated release schedule for the next coming years. I'm just kind of like honing in on launch of several large-scale titles happening within 2027. That to me even possibly screams like the potential of actually having Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 perhaps towards the end of that year and Kingdom Hearts 4 at the beginning of that year. I know that sounds like insane, and I've always kind of said like I don't think Square Enix would ever release both of those games in the same year, but we know that the company are aiming to release Part 3 in 2027, and it is also the 25th anniversary of Kingdom Hearts in 2027, even though, God, I just want the game to come out next year, but I am starting to admit defeat, and I'm starting to lean into 2027. Still, I think that there are going to be some other new games coming from Square throughout 2026. I just think the big heavy hitters won't really start to pop up until about 2027, you know, inching closer towards the end of the current reboot phase. I am excited for Square Enix's future though, especially when we're looking at 2027, getting into 2028. That's when, and it's mentioned here by Square Enix, that they will be able to achieve stable launches of major titles centered on key IPs, consistent releases of large-scale titles. So this means that looking at the pillars of the company, those IPs, so Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, and Kingdom Hearts, which are the big three. And I also hope that Nier kind of fits into that equation too, because if it had a multitude of games and consistent releases, it would also be a fourth pillar. But I do hope that at least looking at both Kingdom Hearts and Nier, that this new business plan can bring consistency to both of those franchises. Because consistency is still going to be a part of their plan, it's just that the focus is now shifting to quality. This is why Square Enix axed about $100 million worth of projects not too long ago, because they didn't fit that criteria of quality. But yeah, I don't really know what's going on with Nier so much. We know that a new game is most likely in development. In fact, it's almost guaranteed that a new game is in development. It's just taken an incredibly long time. But if we're talking about Kingdom Hearts, man, development for the Kingdom Hearts franchise has been rocky. Like, really, really rocky, you know, since Kingdom Hearts 3. KH3 went through some shit at the beginning of its development through an engine change, which caused a long, strenuous development time. Kingdom Hearts 4 is taking longer than the typical AAA game to release, and while I don't think that there are any delays, Nomura has assured that everything is going to his schedule, it is taking long, like a long time. And as we know, Kingdom Hearts Missing Link got cancelled after about 4 years worth of development, which is pure insanity. So I do hope that this new business plan can sort of, I don't really know what the right word is, clean up the Kingdom Hearts team or better organize the Kingdom Hearts team, because it just seems as if there is some level of stickiness that has been going on there for some time. Otherwise, this newest business plan is more or less going over the same spiel as the last one did. They are talking about here how SD titles, so smaller budget games like mobile titles or AA entries, will also be going through the shift of quality over quantity. This is probably why Square Enix have been axing a lot of their mobile live service games and rather opting for less of these, but more interesting ones. And honestly, I kind of believe that. Seems like the quality in Square Enix's mobile games is increasing. If we're looking at Final Fantasy XIV Mobile, pretty impressive. The most recently announced Dissidia, which is launching next year, it looks cool, but it's definitely not your typical Dissidia game. I just kind of wish they would have renamed it something else. There was Missing Link, which looked incredibly impressive for a mobile game, though apparently it wasn't good enough, so they killed it. There is also Ever Crisis as well, which is just plagued with the typical mobile game garbage slop issues, but still, it is quality compared to previous other Square mobile games. There's apparently like a new Dragon Quest one coming out too, so give it up for the 28th Dragon Quest mobile game that is set to release too. Some roguelike thing. I didn't even know this existed, but apparently it does. The other thing that Square have hammered down on is multi-platform releases. And it seems as if, unless Square Enix are currently contracted to release a game as a timed exclusive or a platform exclusive, any release going forward will release on all major platforms. This was something that was announced a little while ago, but it really seems as if since then Square Enix have been buckling down on this, and this graph sort of demonstrates how this is currently in effect. I really do think that Kingdom Hearts 4 is probably going to be like a day one PlayStation, Xbox, and PC release. I still do think that Part 3 will be a PlayStation timed exclusive, but outside of that, I think any other new Square Enix game, it should be expected that it'll come to most systems. There is also the mention of AI usage. Once again, this should be expected though, and it's not surprising because Square Enix did announce back in 2024 that they are going to start using AI, like pretty much any other corporation or company that's currently on this floating rock. Well, a couple of years ago, Square Enix did initially come out saying that they will aggressively pursue the use of AI. A lot of people were fearing that this was in relation to that of generative AI, which isn't the case. It seems that Square Enix are primarily using it to further boost efficiency, which, hell, I totally don't blame any game developer, company, corporation, whatever it might be, using AI as a tool to streamline certain processes. And in case you don't know, it's already been used by Square Enix with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, if we're looking at facial animation lip syncing for multiple different languages. One of their goals here is to have 70% of the QA and debugging, so the quality assurance of their game development, completed using AI systems by 2027. It's another thing that's not surprising. I'm sure that the bulk of the games industry is currently doing the exact same. So that's the most recent Square Enix update. I think that things overall are, looking pretty good. Better than some of the other previous ones we've talked about, that's for sure. Now here's the thing, if Kingdom Hearts 4 really is a 2027 release, which as the days go by, where we just continue to hear absolutely nothing about the game, it becomes more of the reality we're facing. Yeah, I absolutely still do believe though that the Game Awards at the end of the year could still be like the place where we get the next look. Hear me out. Trailer in December of this year, and then maybe like March next year sometime, begin the marketing cycle. Use 2026 as the big marketing promotional cycle of the game with an early sort of January, February 2027 release. That to me sounds chef's kiss. What I feel in my bones though is within the next 365 days, we will know more about Kingdom Hearts 4. It absolutely should be the next big, large-scale AAA game from Square Enix. However, guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Be sure to slippity slap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.